Independence Day Resurgence. My God, they were so preoccupied over whether they could, they didn't stop to think about whether they should. So Independence Day Resurgence is the follow-up, the 20 years later sequel to the original 1996 classic Independence Day. 1996, it was the year of Will Smith, Independence Day, dominating the box office. It was a huge film, and now 20 years later we're back without Will Smith, but with many returning cast members. And you know, you don't really need me to set up the story for you. If you've seen the trailers, even if you heard the fact that they're making another Independence Day film, you know the aliens are coming back. There's going to be another bigger invasion, and America has got to save the day once again. That's all you kind of really need to know. They go bigger, they go badder. You know, the CGI is all over the place. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that it's everywhere, all over the film. Whereas the original was kind of on the cusp of CGI becoming a big thing. Jurassic Park had just done it to a huge effect. And I watched this film, Independence Day 2, with the original in a double bill. So seeing the original on the big screen for the first time, I might add, was awesome. I loved it. You know, the original film, it is so much fun. It isn't a great film, but it's just it's very just, you know, it's unabashed, unadulterated, just cheese, 90s cheese. It knows it is, and it doesn't really shy away from it. You know, you'll cringe, you'll laugh, you'll shake your head, but by the end of it, you'll have probably had a good time. I know some people really don't like it, but I'm one of the people who love it, grew up with it. But it still doesn't mean, because I'm a fan of it, and have been, you know, for 20 years, I wasn't really hoping for a sequel. I never really thought it would be on the cards. I didn't think that it was one that even needed a sequel, necessarily. You know, it kind of ended pretty finally at the end of the first film, though I guess you could say it was only inevitable that another invasion was going to happen, and the aliens were going to strike back. So, you know, what was the film like? I almost loved it. I almost loved it, and it was kind of exactly what I was expecting, and just maybe a little bit underneath that. You know, I was a little bit disappointed with what I was expecting of it. It's not a very good film. Neither is the original. You know, you get what you pay for. It's Independence Day. It's a big alien invasion film with all the bells and whistles, with all the cheesy one-liners, with a little bit of emotional gravitas thrown in there. And, you know, that's kind of the recipe for these Roland Emmerich films. These Roland Emmerich films where he destroys the earth every single time. And I just I'm a big fan of that genre. Just seeing the world being destroyed. I don't know what that says about me, but I love this kind of big scale disaster movie, you know, and Roland Emmerich is one of the best people at making these kinds of films. You could argue that someone could come in who's a great director like a Christopher Nolan and maybe make a disaster movie that would be a real great disaster movie, but I think that it's fine where it is. It doesn't need to be any better than it already is, in terms of it needs a better script, or it needs, you know, this film Resurgence, yeah, there's too many characters. It's a bit of a mess, you know. I feel like the first film is kind of like that, but I do feel the original film has maybe better characters, better lines, more memorable dialogue, which is kind of what these films need, just memorable lines, you know, fun characters. But there definitely was a lot of that in Resurgence, I felt. We have Brent Spiner back as Dr. Oakham, who, you know, was a fairly minor character in the original, although a very minor yet memorable character. He's now one of the main characters in this one. Jeff Goldblum is back as one of the lead characters, and I kind of wanted more Jeff Goldblum out of Jeff Goldblum, if you know what I mean, but I had just watched literally one of the most Jeff Goldblum performances in the first Independence Day, and so you know, I was kind of hoping for more of his kind of unique acting style in the film, but I thought he did a great job in the film for what he had to do in it. And then we have also Bill Pullman, who's like one of my favorite actors from like the 80s and 90s. You know, he's not amazing, but I'm just a big fan of the guy. And I thought he was great in this. I really enjoyed his performance, and that was kind of the biggest thrill for me, was seeing him in it, I think, actually, which I thought would be more towards the Goldblum side of things, but it's really Bill Pullman who I was really enjoying seeing on the screen and seeing back as that character, and also seeing how the events of 1996 had changed him and made him who he is in this film. I liked that it wasn't just like everything was all fine and dandy, and now the aliens are coming in again, so let's fight them again. No, there's repercussions from what happened in 96. They referred to the events of the first film as the War of 96, and it's almost like, you know, when they keep saying, oh, but back in 96, is, as an audience member you're thinking, oh, back in the original film in 96, but you know, a lot of stuff has happened. They've got all this new technology that they've taken from the aliens that were left with the ships, and so they kind of have a different kind of 2016 than we have in terms of their technology. They have a base on the moon. They have this technology where they can fly up to the moon very quickly, things like that. So you think they're more equipped to face this alien threat. But then this alien threat comes back, and it's in a bigger, badder form, and they still haven't really got the, you know, the means to take them on. So even though they have all this new technology and stuff, it doesn't really make things easy for them. So I like that in the film, where everything just kept getting piled on and piled on and piled on. There's a really good part where they really get dropped in the shit, like the entire world, where it just seems impossible now for them to even start to arrange a counter-strike. And I like that idea. I'll just spoil it. You know, the satellites get taken down, so they have nothing. You know, and I really like that, because it was, you know, it just felt like a good kind of move from the aliens, I suppose. Whether it was, you know, that thought out or not, but they've taken down new communication, so we can't even, like, you know, so they have to go back to like Morse code and stuff. I really like that. That was a good part of the film. We have a new cast, a new crew of cast, you know, for the kind of main young actors. We have Liam Hemsworth, Maika Monroe, and I forget the other actors' names who play the other fighter pilots, but those are kind of the two main ones, I suppose. And there's also Will Smith's stepson in the film, and it's a tough one, because obviously the original actress from the first film, Mae Whitman, who played the president's daughter, Bill Pullman's daughter, who is the character who we see in Independence Day Resurgence, played by Maika Monroe. She's an actress now, and she's a very good actress now, and it seems like they didn't even consider her. She didn't even read for the part. They went for a, you know, quote-unquote, you know, hotter version, you know, like a, you know, Maika Monroe. You look at her, then you look at Mae Whitman being the original actress from the first film. And you definitely would look to Maika Monroe as a more, you know, quote-unquote beautiful actress who has, you know, maybe the more perfect facial structure and all that kind of thing, and maybe is a little bit slimmer. And it's kind of a real big crock of bullshit that they apparently didn't even consider Mae Whitman for the role, when I think that she is a great actress from what I've seen, and she could have brought what the character brought in the sequel in fine form, I think. You know, I really think that she could have, but again, they just cast to go along with, you know, probably what a more bankable, maybe marketable leading female star would be in the film. Although I don't even think that's technically true, because Mae Whitman had a very successful film with The Duff recently. So I just don't know what the thinking was behind that, and it does leave me with a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, because not only am I just a, you know, I'll admit I'm a stickler for sequels and recasting parts. I like there to be that continuity. It makes it so much more satisfying for me. But also I just think at its base it's kind of bullshit that she wasn't, again, from what we have seen, probably wasn't even considered. Now there might be other stuff about that. I don't know, she hasn't talked about it herself, so she can't clarify any of this, but that's something I have to think about when watching the film, is that it's a shame, you know. And I thought Maika Monroe was great. She was fantastic in the film, you know, especially with her relationship with her dad, Bill Pullman, and the emotions that go along with that, and their kind of relationship throughout the film. I thought she did a phenomenal job conveying the emotion, and she did a great job. I just wish that it had been the other actress, and I think that it would have been maybe a better option to use her, because again, Maika Monroe is kind of blonde, and the character is brunette, so yeah, it's just confusing. I don't know why they did that, but it is what it is. The film overall, it ain't great. It's gonna get slaughtered. It's gonna get annihilated at the you know, with the reviews and stuff. I'm gonna assume that the box office isn't gonna be what they were expecting because of the reviews, and I think that's a real shame. I think that if the internet was around in 1996 in the form that it is now, you'd have the same kind of people criticizing it for the same kind of reasons, and it might have affected its success. But now, with this internet culture, which, you know, I'm a part of, but Sony people are going to be like, yes, this is another big film that's going to be a disaster for Hollywood. I'm going to jump on that. I'm going to write a horrible, scathing review and get lots of hits on my blog or whatever. And then it just, the ball keeps rolling, and then people don't go to see it because they hear that it's terrible. And it is not a bad film. It's not a very good film, but it's an entertaining, you know, just switch your brain off, summer popcorn blockbuster extravaganza. You got loads of eye candy to look at. You got some fairly fun performances. You got a couple of really good performances from people like Bill Pullman and Jeff Goldblum. You know, a couple of characters who just really weren't that good. You know, but it just is what it is. You got to accept it for what it is. I saw someone today saying they were very disappointed by it. What were you expecting? Were you expecting them to somehow come up with a film that was, you know, in the vein of the first one, but like was so much better and like a, you know, a real serious take on it? It's aliens invading Earth and a ship landing on top of the globe that's like a quarter of the size of Earth. I mean, I don't understand the thinking going into expecting this to be a real serious great film. You know, it's it's just a fun fest, That's what Independence Day Resurgence is. I really enjoyed it. Going to see it next week, and I'm happy to plonk down another £4 to see it again. If it was regular prices like £10, then probably not. But I'm looking forward to seeing some of the cool special effects shots. You know, there's other stuff in the film as well that they didn't show in the trailers that's integral to the plot and makes it even more interesting, I think. That I really enjoyed that side of it. And it's kind of to do with their first contact in the film. The pacing is definitely a lot quicker than the original. And going from the original straight into the sequel, it's kind of like, wow, they just get right into this. And I just felt like within about 10-15 minutes in Resurgence, the ball is moving, and we're where we are like about 90 minutes into the first film almost. You know, like I mean, I guess it goes with kind of everything that America has gone through in the first film, that when they see more aliens coming back in this film, their first reaction isn't, oh, shall we try and make contact? It's like, you know, strike now, you know, like just wipe them out, all of them. So I suppose it is fitting within the story and within the characters that they would probably not want to even risk it again and just strike as soon as they see them. But you know, if the film gets going fairly quickly, and it's not as long as the first film, so it does feel like the pace is a bit breakneck. Anyway, I've rambled enough. If you're thinking about going to see this, please do. Just go see it. Give it a watch. It is fun. If you don't enjoy anything about it, you can come back to me and complain about it. If you like the original film, definitely go and see it, because it's kind of the same vein. It's not as good. I feel like the first one has a bit more charm to it, but there's still a lot to enjoy. I'm not going to give the film a rating because I just don't feel like it needs it. It's not great, but I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to seeing it again, and I hope that it does enough, because I would like to see a sequel, knowing where they kind of teased it would go, because it just sounds as batshit crazy as this one was. So I'm all for more Roland Emmerich, like, you know, mass destruction, and I'd like to see another one. But you know, either way, it was, again, 'cause it's hard for me to like full on recommend it because I know it's not a great film. But they do something different towards the end as well, in terms of the big fight at the end that I thought was, you know, a little bit hit and miss with the concept of it, but I like that they went there. I like that they did something a bit different with it. I was like, wow, they're doing this at the end of Independence Day Resurgence. Also, the guy who plays Jeff Goldblum's dad in the first one, Judd Hirsch, is back in this film, and he was really funny. I felt like his role was a bit squandered on a not very well written side plot, but his introduction in the film was hilarious. I loved it, and I loved seeing him back in the film because I loved him in the original. And we have a couple of other cameos from the original film as well, which I won't spoil. But yeah, that's it. Independence Day Resurgence is a lot of fun. Just go and see it, and try and, you know, take your mind off the troubles of the real world, which is kind of what I feel like this kind of movie is perfect for. So there you go. Thanks for watching.
So you might say he's a really nice guy, really, but if fucking don't cut shit with me. He says he's really cool, but I think he's a tool.